Hi guys, welcome back to GYaff with Gold Rush. I'm Sherida,
And I'm Afia.
and we're so excited to be here in the new year with you guys. We are back with a new episode of GYaff with Gold Rush, and we're just excited to be talking to you guys about a lot.
So there's definitely a lot going on, especially in the world and things. And we just wanted to get into it. We wanted to talk about Guyanese culture and what our culture looks like in this day and age, especially in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we do live in the States. So we just wanted to get into just the different things within that.
Yeah, and so we know that, it's February and MASH is right around the corner. So starting off, we want to say happy Mashramani to all the Guyanese all over the world, wherever you're located.
Happy MASH.
Yeah, we want to wish you guys a very beautiful and festive season. We want to wish ourselves a beautiful and festive season and celebrate all of the hard work of all the Guyanese in Guyana, changing the country and improving it and improving themselves, and all the Guyanese around the world contributing to different causes.
Right.
Yeah, so I wasn't home in Guyana for MASH this year, which is a little disappointing. Last year I had a really good time. And yeah, I wish I was home this year, but maybe next year.
Yeah, I wish I was able to go this year for MASH. The last time I went was several years ago, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was still a teenager when I
Yeah.
went, but I would love to go back home and experience MASH now as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully next year.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
God willing. And then don't forget that in a couple years that's going to be a milestone year because we celebrated our republichood in 1970. So,
True.
2030 is right there. So for the 60th Republic anniversary.
Right.
But yeah, like what I have observed in different countries is that patriotism looks very different. So I feel like in Guyana during MASH time, like there is just a group consensus that we are all going to be extremely enthusiastic and extremely, patriotic. Although like sometimes you'll get caught in traffic. I remember I was getting a taxi to go somewhere, and my taxi driver had to call me and tell me, I'm running late because these children mashing down the road. Like I immediately had to stop being upset about being late to where I was going because
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like it's like who if ever there was a time for you to be late somewhere, I would want it to be for a very positive patriotic reason.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You can't even be mad at that, really.
Yeah.
Because once you hear, okay, kids mashing up the road, and you're like, all right, you know what? This is a very exciting time,
Mm-hmm.
especially for, I've seen kids very excited about Mashramani,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense for us to stop or to, like, slow down traffic and to, kind of, I don't know, like, just be out and about in the streets because
Yeah.
it just shows just how exciting this time is.
Mm-hmm.
We're celebrating our culture, we're celebrating our country.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's little things like that you can't even be mad at. It's just
Yeah. So yeah, Guyana 60th is this year, which is very, very exciting. And I'm sure that, with all the enthusiasm from MASH in general, I can't wait to see, what the country looks like and how it feels in May.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to go home for that as well.
True. But comparing how excitement and just the celebrations flow between MASH and independence and things like that, in America, considering that we live in America now, as we are Guyanese, a part of the diaspora, it does look different in terms of patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things going on, whether that's political and just cultural in general. There's, like, for example, right now, given we are in a interesting political climate, given we do have a controversial president,
Mm-hmm.
as we know, as most of the world knows. Um, and there's so many things, and we'll get into that. We'll get into it, trust. But just little things like For example, the Olympic Games are going on now,
Hmm.
and whether people are rooting for America to win in certain sports or they're rooting for a completely other country, which is more so what I've been hearing. For
Hmm.
example, like I do have coworkers who are from different countries, like Canada and Germany and things like that, and they are a lot of cultural patriotism when it comes to that. They're rooting for their country,
Hmm.
going against the United States. And while America is a melting pot and things like that, a lot of us who are from different cultures and different countries, we're we're still rooting for our home country.
Hmm.
Like, I know Guyana isn't in the Winter Olympic Games, but I know I've been hearing about Jamaica
Yeah.
and Trinidad. I believe Haiti as
Hmm.
well.
I saw the fashion.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so we've been hearing about them, and as a Caribbean person, I'm rooting for them.
Right.
Um, and funny enough, while we are living in America, it's not like we are directly rooting for the American teams. And I know it's funny
Felt
as
that.
yeah, as funny as it is to say.
No, but I
But
think that's so real because first of all, on my neck of the woods, I haven't heard squat diddly about the Olympics for real. Like the only thing that I have, first of all, I didn't even know the Olympics was still going on right now. I thought it was over. I haven't heard anybody talk about Team America, and all I have seen is that like the really beautiful fashion that the teams walked out to, which was Haiti specifically. I remember that they had like a very patriotic outfit for one of their Olympians that mirrored a painting from from an artist. And I remember when I was growing up in school, I read a story about like the Jamaican bobsled team,
Mhm.
and that's about it. Like I don't know if it's because the Winter Olympics just doesn't get a lot of attention as compared to other, just the regular Olympics. But yeah, I haven't heard much. But to your point, I feel I'm rooting for everybody Caribbean. If
No,
we're not
really.
in it, my first go to is definitely gonna always be Guyana.
Right.
Next, one of the Caribbean islands or countries. Next, we'll see.
We'll see. That's really how it
We'll
goes.
see.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because in general, we know when we're rooting for sports teams and all that stuff, especially on a worldwide
Hmm.
stage, a lot of times we're not looking at America,
Not really.
but
But also, we neither of us are really into winter sports, so
yeah,
I can't even
exactly.
say like it's like it doesn't bring my attention. Our attention isn't captured by winter sports because we're not really interested in winter sports, and
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it was just something to bring up
yeah.
because of the whole patriotism and just comparing how if you're in Guyana and your team, your country's team is playing, do you really think that Guyana is gonna be rooting for, let's say, Jamaica while they're in Guyana? No, they like if Guyana is in the sports,
Hmm.
if they're playing in the games, they're gonna be rooting for Guyana,
Yeah.
you know? So
But
it's
that says a
funny to
lot
think.
about just the tone, not the tone, but like the emotion behind how a lot of people are feeling in America right now.
Hmm.
Because you're right, like if Guyana is competing in anything, the people in that country, in Guyana are going to be rooting for Guyana, and I just don't see that sentiment really being the case in the US right now.
Right. Yeah. But there's also a lot of things when it comes to being an American
Mhm.
and whatnot, and just like how you identify,
Mhm.
especially as somebody who was either like you were born here, you have roots here, your family is from here,
Mhm.
versus, like this is where you live.
Yeah.
And this might not exactly be your cultural background, but you still identify
Mhm.
with the place that you're living in. Um, so, question for you, Sharita: how do you identify?
I would say that I identify as Guyanese first, but I do hyphenate. So I say Guyanese American. And the
Hmm.
reason for that is because my whole perception of the world has been shaped by growing up Guyanese with Guyanese parents in a Guyanese household in a Guyanese community, and just growing up, in between Guyana and the US. Like that was my first perception of right and wrong and culture and values. But in the same breath, like I feel like it's inaccurate for me to say just Guyanese alone because I went to school in the US and a lot of my friends are maybe not a lot of my friends are American, but a lot of my friends live in the US. I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of friends in Guyana, a lot of friends in the US. So I think that there are aspects of my personality and my beliefs that have been shaped by both of those places. So definitely Guyanese first, but I add on the hyphenation because I think that that being Guyanese and existing in a different society also instantly like has some differentiation. It causes you to have some differentiation in just lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and like customs and habits that maybe you wouldn't have had if you didn't live in another country or if you spent your whole life in Guyana.
Right. Right.
What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. And to me, I identify as well as Sherida as a Guyanese American. While I am living here, I still do have a very Guyanese experience.
Mm-hmm.
Given that both of our parents were born in Guyana, but they have immersed us in Guyanese culture so much that it feels like we're still back in Guyana, you know, like eating the food, listening to music, and just our mannerisms, our behaviors, and things like that. It just feels like home,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you don't really realize just how immersed in our Guyanese culture, or shall I say, how deep in our rooted in our culture we are until you go to another household and you see how different it is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
like.
agree with that point actually. I don't know if you were going to keep going,
Mhm.
but
No, no, you can continue, but like
yeah.
just to like that point is just like I identify as Guyanese American because like I understand that while I'm not living in Guyana right now, I'm still very much Guyanese, even outside of the homeland.
Hmm. I
But
like what you said about comparing it to your friends because all of my friends either are Guyanese or they are like an immigrant or the children of immigrants. And
same.
it's so easy to see like similarities between me as a Guyanese American, but also see the differences between and like the similarities between myself and another person who is an immigrant or grew up in the States versus like someone whose full culture is entrenched in the US
Hmm.
and you know history of the US. It's definitely very different. So I agree. I feel like I know I'm Guyanese because relative to other people, my perspective and my values and my experiences are very different from them and from that of the American culture that we are surrounded by, but I don't even know it's not even fully surrounded by because we're kind of
Hmm.
in an enclave of just Guyanese people. So it's a little bit tough to
Yeah,
describe that experience.
it
Like
really is.
you're living amongst Guyanese in a different country. So in any case, I do think that identifying as Guyanese first is something that I can't necessarily change because I can't go back and reshape how my perspective and my identity was shaped as a child. And that us being Guyanese first is something that we were taught and grew up in. So we knew that to be a part of our identity. But it is something that I have been thinking a lot about as you know political conservatism has increased under Trump and xenophobia and just anti-foreign, anti-Caribbean, anti-blackness, anti-other has increased in this country.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I've been thinking about that. But, you know, do you think that there's any risk to being outwardly political in the sense of your identity?
I believe so because in a way, sometimes being patriotic for another country is political in itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you never know who you're around, especially when, like, for example, like in the workplace and things like that. If you're very outwardly proud to be from another country, especially in this climate,
Mm-hmm.
where it's kind of in your face that a lot of people of different cultures and people from different countries are being deported.
Mm-hmm.
um it kind of looks not suspicious, but it's interesting in a way. It kind of like raises eyebrows because it's like, like what is your immigration status?
Hmm.
Like are you a citizen? Like how is your family? Like is your are citizens like how are you? Like are you a citizen? How's your family? Is anyone in your family or your friends being affected by, the current deportation that's going on now?
Hmm.
And in a way, just being from somewhere else already comes off as political because
Hmm.
now more people are more confident in expressing their beliefs towards immigration
Hmm.
and just coming over here, whether that's without papers or documentation, or like if you came here, like through the naturalization route and things like that. So in this climate, it seems like just being proud of being from another country other than America
Hmm.
already comes off political because now people are questioning if you're here legally or not.
Hmm.
Um, but what do you think, Sherita? Like, do you think there's a risk or?
I definitely do think there's a risk right now. Being Guyanese, and like one thing that I have always loved about Guyanese people is that a lot of us drive around with like the boxing gloves in our windshield, or
Mm-hmm.
flags, or headrests, bumper stickers. I've seen even like hoods of cars and
Mm-hmm.
the top of a car have a Guyana flag on it.
Right.
So we have never shied away from our identities in that way. But as of recent, knowing that like ICE is on the prowl for people with any indication that they are not from the US, in some cases, just as long as you don't look white, but
Mm-hmm.
any indication that you may not be from this country is, reason enough for them to be suspicious about your immigration status and, if you came in the country legally or not. Um, so yeah, I do feel like there's a risk, and I hate that culture is being politicized right now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that is so wholesome and positive, especially during times of celebration.
Right.
It is disappointing to think that people who may be just excited about Guyana's mash going on right now, or independence coming up, seeing a Guyana flag might be reason for an undercover ICE agent, as we know a lot of them are walking around masked or without any kind of
Like
indication that they
identification.
are
Yeah.
law enforcement of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary to know that you're kind of being on the watch. And funny enough, it is making me feel even more rebellious. Like this is even more time for me to stand in pride of my culture, because I don't know. I think that that's what they want from us. They want for us to forget where we came from and lose our pride in where we came from.
Right.
And I just can't live with that. So funny enough, even with all of the fear that I sometimes have around ICE and them just intimidating people, I feel even more proud to be Guyanese,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like we're resilient people, and there's, you know, no one will scare me into not being Guyanese.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. No, I agree with you. And while audience, while Sharita might be more of a fight the power person, and she's definitely more confident in those areas. While I do feel strongly like more in my culture, and like I'll still continue to be a proud Guyanese, I feel like during this time I'm still very cautious now,
Hmm.
because I've seen videos of like literally in our own backyard, because um Sharita and I, we live in a very like Caribbean,
Yeah.
very like immigrant heavy community. And
Hmm.
just seeing videos of just down the street, ICE agents are picking up people
Hmm.
off the streets. And it's like,
It's close to home.
yeah, it literally is. This literally is home.
Yeah.
And it's like, God forbid this was any of our family
Right.
members,
Right.
or one of us, because like you never know.
Hmm.
You never know who you'll come in contact with. And while they're very undercover, you just don't know. So I feel like I've like while I'm still very proud and very patriotic when it comes to like me being a Guyanese, I still am very cautious, because now I don't want to say I'm looking over my shoulder, but
Hmm.
it can happen to any one of us. And ICE has been targeting people, whether it's just different. The pause. But yeah, so like different people are being targeted off the smallest things.
Mm-hmm.
And just how me and Sherida talk, they can hear a slight accent and really question if you're a citizen or not.
Mm-hmm.
Even just by the way that we look.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in America, there is you know, while we are a melting pot, we look very different. And just the community
Just
that
say it
we're
straight up. We ain't white.
in.
We ain't white, and they know that.
And they know that. Um,
And
and
that's number one for
exactly.
justification for being suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so now, like, we're seeing videos of people, like we're seeing more so people who are more like Hispanic, Latino, in these videos who are being picked up by ICE, but it does not stop them from wanting to get the next person. There are a lot of extended Caribbean cultures here outside of just Latino cultures,
Yeah, yeah.
that are also being looked at by ICE, and they're picking them up as well, even though they are citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm very patriotic and very proud of being a Guyanese, I'm still cautious during this time because it can be any one of us.
I am very proud of being Guyanese, and I know Afia just referred to me as fight the power, but I do still think there's a level of cautiousness, but I feel like it's so much more damaging to completely take down my flags
Mm-hmm.
and to just hide who I am in
That's
this
true.
climate.
That's
Like
true.
at the end of the day, there's people who are sitting still, minding their business. They have ICE agents coming into people's houses. At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, we live in an area that is immigrant heavy, has a lot of Caribbean people. Like the fact that this is our zip code is enough reason for suspicion. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they're not going to come to our door.
That's true.
So for that reason, yes, I feel emboldened to maintain, keep my flags up, and be who I am because I can't help it. And if they want to come after me, and if they feel I'm suspicious for some reason, they're going to do that regardless of if I have a flag up or not.
That's true.
But I don't think it's. I think it'll cause me more harm because seeing my Guyana flag in my house and listening to my music as I'm driving and stuff like that, those are things that give me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not allow these people to take away my joy. So I would say to, any of our listeners, if you are Guyanese living in the US and, maybe you don't have formal documentation to be in the country, yes, definitely walk with extra paperwork and ensure that you can, justify to the best of your ability why you're in the country, or justify and show that you are here legally or whatever as best as
Mm-hmm.
you can. But for the rest of Guyanese, like if you have a gold tooth, if you have Guyana flag pendant necklace or earrings, or speak with an accent, or have a Guyana flag T-shirt or a Guyana emblem in your car, I don't think that you avoid any more of the harm and the just harassment in some instances that ICE is causing other people by taking down any signs that you are Guyanese.
Mm-hmm.
Guyana is a melting pot. There are people of African descent, Indian descent, Chinese, Portuguese, indigenous, mixed. Um, some of Guyanese people do have a more white passing appearance. They may have more European ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
But the vast majority of Guyanese people are ethnic looking, which already makes us suspicious in the eyes of people who are using race as a determining factor for suspicion
Exactly.
under, you know, this ICE era in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't take our skin color off. A lot of people can't turn on the Valley Girl accent, the hyper American accent. I don't think now is the time to start trying to be something that you're not. That's what I was getting at
That's
before.
true. Well, I
So
agree.
so there is a wariness that I have, and there's a cautiousness that I have developed, but I do feel even greater pride in where I came from because we are a resilient people, and if me being who I am and representing where I came from is a crime, then like we're gonna see. That's
Right.
that's how I
Yeah,
really
we're
feel.
gonna see.
We're gonna see.
Yep. Is it a crime? Is it a crime?
Right.
No, but I love that you say that, Sharita, because there are still people, given the climate that we're in, now they're trying to assimilate as much as they can
Mm-hmm.
into American culture to show that, you know what, like I'm like, let me not try to make myself come off like I'm from somewhere else, that I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are like, actively lying, like, hey, like I'm an American, I'm not from anywhere else, just not
Mm-hmm.
to raise any red flags or anything, out of fear. Like there are people who are, extremely afraid. They're scared of for their lives, for their
Mm-hmm.
families' lives. So they try to assimilate as much as they can. Whether that's like lying that they're a citizen to,
Mm-hmm.
like in their workplaces and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And all for their safety,
Yeah.
because the slightest thing can make you a target.
This randomly just came to mind, and funny enough, I recently changed my phone background to this picture of me when I was a little girl and I was in school, and I was in like, I don't know, some grade in elementary school. And this was during a time, obviously Trump wasn't in office, but I remember it was a very xenophobic time. And for the American kids, if they had any indication that you were from another country, you would be teased so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there were people they were calling Jamaican booty scratchers, African booty scratchers, all kinds of stuff these kids were calling. And I remember somebody pointed out I had on a Guyana map earrings, and I
Mm-hmm.
was so scared. So when somebody asked me, "Oh, where is this earrings from?" and I'm not sure if they were going to tease me or not, but I lied and told them New Jersey. Granted, the shape of New Jersey and the shape of Guyana is not all that
Yeah,
similar, but
but
as
it
a
was close
kid, it could
enough.
kind of look similar.
Yeah.
And that memory haunts me to this day because I was so sad that I lied and said these earrings are the map of New Jersey just
Mm-hmm.
because I was scared that someone was about to other me.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of my, I guess if you want to call it rebelliousness, is related to the fact that I have already experienced hiding my identity, my cultural identity, which makes up so much of my self understanding. I don't want to go back there. I'm never going back there. I know teasing and, being apprehended by ICE are two different things. But for me, like, it's so much deeper. My cultural identity is me. And
Right.
so to tell me to turn it down because how I look, how I sound, what I listen to, where I live is a threat to other people, like that is very soul crushing. And I remember how that feeling was as a child, and I don't want to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't plan on going back there.
I agree.
But, ICE is very scary, and realistically, people are getting deported.
But yeah, and just like continuing off what I was saying before, with like people are like they don't want to bring too much attention to themselves, that they get to the point of either watering down their culture, or they get to the point of even lying about where they're from.
Hmm.
Like for example, like this hits pretty much like in the Guyanese home, that there is a superintendent by the name of Ian Roberts. He was a superintendent of a major city in Iowa, I believe,
Hmm.
of the capital. And pretty much this superintendent, he's from Guyana.
Hmm.
They found out that he was not a citizen. I believe he was charged for having a firearm.
Hmm.
And they looked more into his background and saw that he wasn't even a citizen as well.
Hmm.
And they showed that he has even lied about being a citizen, because to make his way to become a superintendent of such um, a large school system in Iowa. Now the spotlight is on him. So for him to basically commit a crime, and they looked more into his past and his background,
Hmm.
they saw, wow, he's not even a citizen. So
Hmm.
now I believe he's currently on trial,
Hmm.
but he's set to be processed to be deported to Guyana. And I'm not sure of the specific details of like how far along, or like how long ago he was in Guyana, and if he
Hmm.
even knows the country.
Right.
But it shows you that you know it's happening to our people just as much as it's happening to the more common, like in the news, in your face,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this person of Latino descent is being deported. It's
Mm-hmm.
happening to our people as well. It just shows that your citizenship status here is a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and the smallest change or difference from being an American can
Mm-hmm.
already show that you have a target, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me though.
No, I think that was well said. I think that, it's disappointing that, for whatever reason or another, he was unable to obtain his citizenship during his time in the US.
Hmm.
Um, but it does make me think about the idea of homeland and what that means for someone like him who technically was never a citizen of the US, but I read something about him many moons ago that said that he pretty much went to school in the US. So he's been ingratiated in culture, and just because you were in living in the US and ingratiated in the culture doesn't mean that this has become your home. But for some Guyanese people, America is their home.
Right.
And so it makes me wonder that if after he's deported, does he still feel like he's a part of the Guyanese society? Is Guyanese
Hmm.
culture still his dominant culture? Um, and that's interesting to even think about from the perspective that Afia and I live amongst a lot of Caribbean people, but in the state of Iowa is not very, to my knowledge, not very diverse, first of all. And it doesn't have a huge Caribbean population. Like a lot of people out there are like Mormons
Mm.
and just predominantly white. So I'm not sure if he was in Iowa the whole time or how close to his culture he has been all these years, but I think the idea of homeland is something that everybody's grappling with as we watch the news and see neighbors and friends and just people that are a part of our cultural communities be deported and sent away and taken to ICE detention centers.
Mm.
Um, for a lot of first generation Guyanese, I feel like it feels like straddling the fence at times. Like your homeland is where your home is and where your family and your friends are. And for some people, that might be the US, the UK, Canada, and elsewhere. And then for other first gens, it might be Guyana. Like Guyana is your homeland.
Right.
And so, of course, because we represent Gold Rush Association and believe that Guyana is the homeland of those who were born there, those who parents were born there, their grandparents, and stay affiliated and interested and prideful about that Guyanese culture, we do believe that it's important to stay wrapped up in the news and the happenings and want to contribute to the development of Guyana.
Hmm.
Um, and I know Afia might want to talk a little bit more about like her experience growing up in the U.S., but also still feeling like Guyana was the homeland.
Mm. Yeah, because like similar to Sherida, like I had friends who were from Guyana, and I still talk to them till this day, and I even call them my cousins. Growing up with them, going to school with them, and then also just having friends who are from other countries who who were either born in other countries or their parents were from other countries. So I was still very much immersed in a very non-American, I guess you can say, way of being
Mm-hmm.
raised. So all I've known was being Guyanese or being other than just American, despite me living here. And just our home is very much Guyanese,
Mm-hmm.
and I do have a few friends who are from America, and their parents are from here.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing the contrast and compared to when they would come over, and how our culture is, it's just it's a difference,
Mm-hmm.
because our homeland means so much to us that we continue to, I wouldn't say pay respect, but there's another word for it.
Kind of, I could see that.
But okay, you know what? Yeah,
Pay
yeah,
respect,
yeah,
contribute to,
yeah. Pay
visit.
respect. Yeah, we would contribute to. We go back every year, and that's something that we look forward to because that's something that has been routine.
And instilled in us, yeah.
Exactly, and instilled in us because we know, okay, the school year is coming to an end. We already have our bags packed. Like flights were already booked for us to be in Guyana for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just something that has been regular for us, and I continue to see myself as a Guyanese and a Guyanese American because I live here,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of that experience, and I personally wouldn't let anybody tell me that I'm anything but, you know. Um, and I know Shrews has had the same experience as well, but it means a lot to me just knowing that I'm able to express myself and express my culture as a Guyanese.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like it's just something that I will forever be proud of, and I do continue to hope that's something that I instill in my kids.
Right, right. And it's like we're not completely so dense to
Hmm.
think that our children who may be born in the US, may be born in Guyana or other countries around the world will have the same exact experience growing up Guyanese or as a descendant of a Guyanese person as we did. Um, but we hope to instill an appreciation for their culture and their ancestry, which is through Guyana. Um, and to instill a desire to be patriotic and celebrate all of the accomplishments of Guyanese people and the developments of the country. But something that I do want to call out is that given the state of the world right now, there are many different reasons for migration. There are some people experiencing forced migration. Some people are experiencing deportation, like what we were just talking about. Some people are going to Guyana because they want to explore their lineage. I follow some subreddits and I interacted with a man who said that he was going to be the first in his family to move back to Guyana because he had grown overseas, grown up in America, I believe, and he had acquired enough resources and information and whatnot to feel comfortable to move back to Guyana. And so there's that, and then there's also people who are looking for opportunity, and as Guyana is continuing to develop and have all these new opportunities for different people to explore, people are finding their way back home. A story that resonates with me and that inspired me was when I met with the founder of Guyana Electric, Mr. Keon Howard, and he told me his story about living in Guyana growing up, then moving to Canada, living there for some time, and starting a family with his wife, who was also Guyanese, and ultimately they decided to move back to Guyana, all of them. So his children, who grew up in Canada, um, are currently, in high school, students, and just experiencing the Guyanese way of life. And I think that everyone experiences a different version of homeland, whether it's to
Hmm.
return as a remigrant or as a family decision. But either way, it's interesting to see all the different ways that homeland can be experienced and interpreted
True.
through all those types of situations that we described. And so,
And yeah, it makes sense because everyone has a different experience, whether that's they want to go back or
mhm,
you know what, let me explore my heritage. I'm going to go home for the first time and to live and to contribute to Guyanese economy and things like that. Like there's so many different reasons people go back home or go home in the first place.
mhm,
There's some people, like even in America, they do their ancestry and they want to visit that same place that their roots are from. And
mhm,
there are more and more people there, like Sherita's talked about the Reddits. Um, People have been talking about visiting Guyana because it's a place that they have never known. I've read whether it's on social media or just different like blog pages that people are talking about. My parents have never visited Guyana. They've never been there before because they
mhm,
might be second, third, or even fourth generation Guyanese, or their grandparents have migrated to, let's say, the UK, and even though they're still culturally Guyanese, they have just never been there.
mhm.
So that gives them another reason to want to be able to go to Guyana and to experience whether they are living there or if that's just the time that they go there for a vacation or just a visit and things like that. There's so many different reasons why people go to Guyana.
Yeah.
And, just us here at Gold Rush, we really do want to continue to promote and encourage everyone, whether you're of direct Guyanese descent, you were born there and just never been back, or if your parents are from there, your parents' parents, and etc., or if you just have one side of your family who's there and that's something that you want to explore, like we
Mm-hmm.
do encourage you, like if you have the means to do so, to go and to, experience the beauty that is Guyana and to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, contribute, whether that's you're shopping at the markets or you're shopping and you're supporting the local vendors and things like that. There's just so many reasons to go back home and to be able to just be surrounded by, like, this is your blood, you know. But there are also reasons why people can go back home or they don't want
Mm-hmm.
to go back. There might be, whether it's like political reasons or like they have been um so
Mm-hmm.
used to how the first world is, that when they travel places that may not have been as developed, they might kind of get, they might shy away from that, because for many of us who, go back to Guyana regularly, like while Guyana is very much developing, we can see that it might not be as developed in certain areas of, like, even when it comes to just
Mm-hmm.
transportation and stuff. Like the average person who visits Guyana may not be able to easily grasp just navigating Guyana itself, unless you know somebody, or like if you talk to different people there. There's many different things.
Mm-hmm.
There might not be as many resorts or fancy hotels and things like that that
Right.
people might see in other Caribbean countries, and they might expect the same of Guyana. You have things like that. You have people. Not everybody has money to go.
Yeah,
Not
but
everyone has money to travel.
to your point though, there are like just increasingly fewer barriers to go home and discover homeland, and there's a lot more incentives to
True,
do so. So
exactly.
we have like seen the local citizen rate, the Guyanese descendant citizen rate that may be attainable, and for some people to be able to go and get a hotel if you don't have family that you can stay by.
Exactly.
There are tours popping up every day that people are trying out so that they can learn more about different areas in Guyana and stuff. And so, I think that you have to pick and choose what you would like to invest your resources and your time
True.
into.
True.
Um, but I do think that given the circumstance of the world right now and just the challenges that many people are facing as they're in the diaspora, because I think that now is a time that we begin to look inward and remember that being Guyanese is a benefit. Being Guyanese comes with its strengths. And as much as society or politics might encourage us to try and shy away from our heritage, looking inward can give us strength. And the history of our foreparents can give us guidance on what we should be doing moving forward. And so I think
Right.
that,
Right.
at least for this time, for me, like remembering my heritage and remembering my homeland is giving me the courage to move forward.
Mhm.
And so we hope that in whatever category you fall into as a listener, whether you are a Guyanese person living in Guyana, whether you are a Guyanese who is living in the US, who is feeling fear about ICE, whether you're a Guyanese who lives anywhere else in the world, a descendant living anywhere else in the world, looking inward and studying your heritage and learning about your homeland and going back to explore will serve more benefit than it does harm.
hmm I agree, and that was well said, Sharita. Um, so all of this, like, just to say, like, we do want to continue to encourage you all to continue to pour into Guyana, whether that is you are supporting, whether that's Guyanese businesses, or you actively do want to go
Mm-hmm.
back home and things like that. There's so many ways that, as a Guyanese, you can continue to promote your culture and just, just be proud of where you're from, especially in times like these.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Well, this was a very long gaff. It's been a long time coming. I know you guys haven't heard from us in the podcast in a while,
yeah,
but we are so happy to be back and just sharing our thoughts with you. This is real life, y'all. So
right.
we know a lot of Guyanese are just not sure about how to feel about the state of the world. We didn't even touch on the Venezuela stuff, and I know that that is alarming, and maybe we'll talk about that on a later episode. But for now, we are wishing everybody well, wishing everybody a happy MASH,
Yep.
a happy new year, because this is the first time we're putting out a podcast for 2026.
Yeah.
And we're wishing everybody prosperity and joy. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I second that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all, and you know how we just end our podcast.
We
Like we
gonna
used to
GYaff
say,
later.
we're gonna GYaff later. All
All
right.
right.